Hey everyone! Welcome to Steven Universe, the show where we talk about the universe of Steven Universe. I'm your host, Victor Frost. First things first, the news. Ben Levin, writer of Steven Universe and co-creator of the utterly hilarious web series Doris and Marianne Are Breaking Out of Prison, confirmed over Twitter that this hiatus will end with yet another Steven bomb. Still no date though. Unrelatedly, a new Steven Universe special has been released. Not another Classroom Gems, unfortunately, but an unboxing video recorded by Steven himself of the very first Wacky Sack duffel bag. Link in the doobly-doo. Lastly, this will probably be the final episode of Steven Universe until the hiatus is over. There are other creative projects that have been sitting in the pipeline that I'm going to be taking this time to follow through on, complete, or prepare for, like Sounds of the Commons, which I'll be restarting in January, product reviews that I've been trying to get out for ages, a new monthly YouTube show starting in early 2016, a couple of live performances I'll be doing, and a whole bunch of other stuff. During this time, apart from the pipeline content, I'll be putting out previously unreleased recordings of panels I've done at conventions, including my Steven Universe panel at Kineticon, with my good friend Viga. I am so glad that so many of you are regular viewers of this channel, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy the content I'll be releasing during this time. I may put out some Steven Universe specials during this time as well, but that's not set in stone. But there will always be something for you to enjoy every week. Now it's time for us to look at the latest episode and see what we learned. If you haven't yet seen the episode too far, now's your chance to pause this video, go watch that one, then come back. Don't worry, we'll wait. This is your spoiler alert. New episode, new lore. Let's see what we learned. So, while the bulk of what makes this episode interesting are the interactions between Amethyst and Peridot, it did actually give us a couple of pieces of new lore. So we're going to take some time to talk about those first, then move on to the good stuff. First and foremost, Peridot's discomfort of Garnet's persistent fusion state gives us an insight into how homeworld culture views fusion. Back in The Return and Jailbreak... which suddenly feels so long ago now, jeez. Anyways, back in The Return and Jailbreak, Jasper calls Garnet a shameless display and poncies about on how fusion is just a way to make weak gems stronger. Now back then, I speculated that this was just sour grapes on her part, but given Peridot's comments, it now seems more likely that this feeling is common on Homeworld. The second thing to discuss is that we've now gotten an explicit explanation as to what Jasper meant by calling Amethyst an overcooked runt. The gem formation process was explained by Amethyst in the second Classroom Gem video, in that gems are formed in the ground using the process initiated by the kindergarten injectors, and then after some amount of time emerge fully formed and ready to go. However, we now know that Amethyst's size, as opposed to the general smallness of nearly every other gem, is a result of her staying in the ground too long, and that optimally, she'd probably be around the same size as Rose. We also learned that gems do not come out of the ground with a comprehensive built-in knowledge of their purpose and being, since Amethyst clearly didn't know that she was apparently supposed to be much bigger, or a soldier, or have a leadership role. Finally, we learned that Steven Quartz Universe and Amethyst are, in the show, genetically speaking, related, since Amethyst is a type of quartz. The brother-sister dynamic between the two, now further cemented. So, now it's time for us to get into the actual message of the episode as we enter part 3 of the Field Trip with Peridot arc. Her field trip with Steven taught her that enemies don't have to stay enemies, and to trust Steven and the gems. And her field trip with Pearl to the barn taught her that you can be more than what you were made to be, and that your identity isn't set in stone. I'm sorry, I didn't even know. That was completely unintentional. I just noticed it as it came up in the prompter. That was a horrible pun. Okay. Alright. Compared to even the other crystal gems, Peridot is very alien, and a lot of her development in the past few episodes centers around her having to learn and adapt to the very different environment and culture of Earth. She learns to trust Steven and the gems because she knows next to nothing about Earth and has to rely on their experience and knowledge. She has to adjust her own beliefs and cultural biases because she has to work with Pearl and is forced to recognize that those beliefs, the rules of the society she's accustomed to, aren't applicable here. In other words,
welcome to Earth.
But while Peridot is very intelligent, she is still out of her depth. For a lack of knowing the names of things, she calls them by their function or use. Eyes are vision spheres because of their shape and purpose. A screwdriver is a leverage optimizer because that is literally what it does. To her, this is natural. Why not call things based on what they do? It makes sense. But to Amethyst and Steven, who are used to calling vision spheres eyes and torsional leverage optimizers screwdrivers, this bizarre naming is hilarious just because of how foreign it is. For Peridot, this is confusing, but good. Whatever she's doing is eliciting a positive response from not only the Steven, but the Amethyst, another ally. In the kindergarten, though, things start to get hairy when Peridot starts making observations about the other gems. Steven, who is very emotionally aware, is no longer laughing, but Amethyst, who has a bit of an insensitivity streak when it comes to cheap laughs, is practically howling. And she feels especially good when Peridot begins to build her up, until she strikes a chord with Amethyst's insecurities.
You're a strong, singular, fully functional soldier, despite the fact that you're defective. Defective?
But she doesn't just strike a chord. Oh no. She plays a whole damn symphony on them, and through all this, Peridot doesn't realize that this might be upsetting or mean. Not out of indifference, but out of just a lack of understanding. She sees Amethyst laughing and happy when she calls things accurate but wrong names, and she sees Amethyst getting enjoyment out of her observations of other gems. When this happens, Amethyst says nice things to her, that she's funny or that she's a real gem. This feels good. Peridot sees the causal links between each of those events, but doesn't actually understand why it's the case. This is evident when she actually tries to be funny back at the barn and gets the cold shoulder.
Oh, Amethyst! Check out this. Rhythmatic pulverizer. Ah! That's funny, I'm so funny! Whatever, dude. That was the incorrect response.
She's confused, and it's up to Steven to explain to her why. And Peridot finds out very quickly how she made Amethyst feel, which in turn makes her feel worse. The guilt that's caused by this casts her into a tantrum, not out of actual anger, but out of that sick, confused feeling we've all felt one time or another when we experience a mix of feelings that we don't understand. For all of her intellect, Peridot has, until now, lacked that emotional awareness, but now she has it, or at least more than she's previously had. And she's hurt someone whom, it seems, she wants to be friends with. My brother was born when I was 16, and I've gotten to watch him grow up these past 10 years. I knew him when he had no understanding of the world and was just this squirmy baby in a crib, all the way to now when he plays video games and has complex thoughts and opinions. When I see Peridot, especially how she reacts to things, I can't help but notice the similarities between her and how my brother acted when he was younger. To me, she really seems like just a very smart kid, someone who has a lot of intelligence but doesn't really understand the world around them or themselves. When my brother first started feeling complex emotions, those beyond happy, sad, angry, scared, bored, etc., there were times when he would get angry and lash out or start crying, simply because he didn't understand what he was feeling. I'm happy to have been able to be there for him and help him figure those feelings out. And I think Steven is going to be playing that role for Peridot, like he did in this episode. In this case, prompting her to apologize and set things right with Amethyst. But apart from the development of Peridot's emotional awareness, it also gave Amethyst a taste of very much her own medicine. To put it bluntly, Amethyst can be a bit of an ass sometimes, particularly towards Pearl. The other crystal gems don't pick on Amethyst too much because they clearly understand how sensitive she can be about herself, but I've been wanting the kid gloves to come off for a while and for someone to give Amethyst a lesson in empathy. If any of the other gems said to Amethyst what Peridot did about her being defective or any of the other stuff, it would have come off as purposefully mean or spiteful. But Peridot gets a pass just because of how obviously emotionally unaware she was the entire time. It wasn't mean or malicious, just clueless. I hope this episode gave Amethyst that lesson in empathy she's been sorely needing. She could be just as good a role model for Steven as Pearl or Garnet with a little more polishing. Oh my god, these gem puns just write themselves sometimes, don't they? Okay, one more time. And that's what we learned this time on Steven Universe Universe. As I said, we'll be on hiatus until Steven Universe comes back on the air with new episodes. Until then, keep an eye on this channel for content that I'll be putting up in the duration, and other announcements. This hiatus is going to be my time to experiment with things, and I look forward to hearing your opinions on them. Until next time, I'm Victor Frost, and this has been Steven Universe Universe. See you later, guys.